Question 14. Is there any ideas of future plans to expand for gaining our future projects, e.g., social media, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter?
Yes, it would be really good to do that actually, and I think we should have done it a bit earlier. I'm not very good on social media, but I think it would have been really good, and I think we should do it. And when it comes to sharing, putting together the outputs, like what do we do with all the information we're going to get, that definitely needs to be out on social media. We need to be putting it out some way or another. It would be great to think about doing some YouTube stuff. Personally, I'll be very reliant on all of you because I have no idea how to do it. I mean, I know how to put silly things on Facebook, but that's about it really. Cat pictures, that kind of thing. Yeah, we should have a Facebook page for the project. And I know the Bristol Disability Equality Forum has a Twitter feed, and we should be using their Twitter feed as well. And actually, I was talking to someone today from the Centre for Deaf and Hard of Hearing People, who said send him something and he'll put it about the project and he'll put it out on their social media. So I was just working on that before we started talking. So yeah, Twitter's quite hard though, isn't it? Because it's like 280 characters. And I obviously write far too much and talk far too much. So I kept doing these things and I was like, oh, that's like 310. So I kept having to edit them down. So I find it quite frustrating, but so maybe it's different social media platforms, not Twitter, I don't know.
Last question. Was there a process to get the project authorized and approved? Furthermore, what was the process like? If you signed a non-disclosure agreement, you don't have to disclose any information regarding the process of approval for the project.
That's a great question. Great question. So the process, actually, I didn't have to sign a non-disclosure agreement. The process was really interesting. It was really positive because it was a conversation. It started with this conversation with Laura Welty, and then we went to the National Lottery Heritage Fund to see if we could get the project funded. And as I said earlier, they were so enthusiastic about it. They're very keen to diversify. I think they've realised that a great deal of that, they're very keen to have attract wider audiences. It's one of their key outcomes. So they were really, really enthusiastic to support the project. The process to get it off the ground was, apart from spending a long time writing a funding bid and talking to other local agencies to get their buy-in and their support. And then we launched it. I don't know what was interesting about the process to get it off the ground, of course, was that it was just gaining momentum when we got into lockdown. And at that point, I mean, I was about to call a meeting, probably at St Paul's Learning Centre. No, it was going to be at MCHED, actually. I was about to have a meeting with all of you, with the research group, and then we couldn't actually have a meeting because we went into lockdown and nobody knew what was going to happen. And actually then I got ill in April. I got COVID. That's a whole other story. So when I came out of that, I thought, no, let's just see if we can get this group off the ground using Zoom. And it's worked well. I think we've all agreed in the group that it's worked really, it has been a real benefit, actually. And I think there's a lot of learning that we all need to do now about this process, about what are the benefits, particularly what are the benefits for disabled people, about being able to work with each other on technology in a way that we just didn't think about before lockdown. I also think we have to address where the limitations are of it. But I think there's a lot of good learning to be had here, and I think we've done that really well. Process of setting up was just trying to find people. The museum service was really, really helpful, actually. They sent information out on for their volunteers list, and quite a few members of the research group came through that, and they responded to the museum service volunteers list. So you came through a contact with Wessel, so that was great. Some of the other people came through contacts that the forum, Bristol Disability Equality Forum, had. And yeah, it was an interesting process. The other thing that changed actually was that as part of that setting up process, I was talking with some of the schools that have resource units, some of the secondary schools and colleges that have resource units, and we were hoping to do some work, kind of take some of the project into the resource units in secondary schools in particular, or in Blaze High School. And of course that just hasn't happened at all because schools closed during the start of lockdown. So there've been a few opportunities that we've really missed. And yeah, there've been some real benefits, but there have been some lost opportunities in the process as well, which is not, which is sad. And we just have to see what happens come September and whether or not we'll be able to do anything with that, go back to those groups. I'm a bit worried because I actually think that schools are going to have so much pressure and so many difficulties that letting in external projects just probably isn't going to be something they'll be able to manage, but we'll see.
Well, thank you so much for being part of this historical interview. I mean, it's a pleasure to be given the opportunity to interview you today, and thank you so much.
Well, I was going to thank you. Thank you for having the idea, Aaron, because it's been I was quite surprised when you first said it, but I thought, no, actually, that's such a good idea to try and capture this story as well, the story of the project, as well as the stories that the project's telling. So that's great, thank you. And it's been really, really good for me to reflect on it